Hello, my sweet and precious 7th graders. Welcome back. We are talking about lesson 60 today. Go ahead and make sure you're copying down the notes as I am doing here. We are going to be talking about fractional parts of a number, part 1, and percents of a number. The first things that I want you to write down are, this is going to be your answer or your key for translating between English and math. The word of means multiply. The word is means equals. The word what means x or any variable. Or unknown, right? Or unknown. Variable. Okay, so let's take a look at these examples here. If you're following along at home, it's page 358. Example number 1. We have what number is, so I will write this down. You don't have to write these down when you're doing your homework, but I'm going to write them down for now. What number is 6/10, and it's written in the book with a 0, right? But I'm lazy, I don't write the 0 in the front. That's totally fine, you don't have to. I feel like this isn't focused. Maybe I should wear my glasses. That would probably help. Maybe it is focused. Okay, is of 31. Of 31. So we're going to translate this English sentence into math. The word what, or what number, I guess we don't even have to use the word. Sometimes they'll say what decimal or what percent. So, but in this case, it's what number. What number is this garbage of this garbage? Garbage. Okay, so what number, the word what means x. So we're going to say x. The word is means equals 0.6. Or 6/10, right? 6/10. And the word of means multiply times 31. All right, so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do 31 times 0.6. 6 times that is 6. This times this is 18. The number of digits behind decimals is just this 1 right here. So we're gonna move this over 1 spot, 18.6. So x equals 18.6. So all we have to do is translate from math to English. We're solving for x here, okay? Example number 2. We have 3/5 of 120 is what number? All right, again, we're going, cord. What are you doing here? All right, so 3/5 of 120 is. So we're gonna do 3/5. We know of, we know 120. Is, we know is, and what number? All right, so 3/5 of, which means multiply. We go back and we look at our notes. Of means multiply. 120 is what number, and what is x? Perfect. So what we have here is 3/5 times 120. Remember when we're multiplying fractions, and we can easily turn this into a fraction by putting it over 1. We multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. We can also cross cancel, however. If I divide 120 by 5, I get 2, which gives me 10. Subtract and I get 20. 5 goes into 24 times. So if I divide this by 5, I get 1. Divide this by 5, I get 24. 24. Now on the bottom, I have 1 times 1, so that just goes away. Don't need anything there. Now I have 3 times, let me rewrite that. We have 3 times 24 equals x. Guys, that little dot means times, if you didn't figure that out way back up here. You can also use parentheses. I strongly advise you, and in fact, I want you to stop using an x for multiplication. I hate that we teach it at such a young age because I just have to break you of that habit when you get to junior high. Okay, so we're gonna multiply 3 times 24. Well, we know 3 times 25, if you have 3/4, that's 75 cents, right? And then we have 3 extra ones. So we're gonna take 75, we're gonna subtract 3, we get 72 equals x. Hopefully that made sense, my mental math. If not, don't sweat it. Okay, so that was example number 2. Now we're gonna do percent of a number. Number 3, example 3. Go back up to your notes and you're going to want to write down part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay, so part over whole equals percent over 100. For example number 3, it says the jacket sold for $75. 40%, this is on page 358. It sold for $75. 40% of the selling price was profit. How much money is 40% of 75? Now, anytime you have a percent problem, I'm going to tell you, this is my magic formula. Either part over whole equals percent over 100, another way of writing that, or is over of equals percent over 100. In this case, word problems. Word problems. You're going to want to use this for word problems, and that's exactly what we have for this example. So whenever you see a word problem or something, we're going to do our little setup here. We did part over whole equals percent over 100. This is our setup, okay? The jacket sold for $75. Now, was 75 the part of the amount or the whole amount? In this case, it was the total amount, so we're going to put it at the bottom, whole amount. 40% of the selling price was profit. So 40% of the sale price was profit. How much money is that? What part of $75 is 40%? So we're gonna put an X here. Okay, so a couple of things. If you don't have a calculator to use, we're gonna wanna reduce our fraction. First things first, we can lob off these zeros here. So next, we can divide both the top and bottom by 2. So what we end up with is X over 75 equals 2 over 5. This makes it a lot easier to solve our problem. Now, to solve for X, we're going to cross multiply. That means we're going to take X times 5 equals 75 times 2. So we're going to have 5 times X equals 75 times 2. And that means multiplication as well. 75 times 2, if you have 75 cents and you have another 75 cents, you'd have $1.50, right? So it's 150. So 5x equals 150. Okay. Now I want to get that x by itself. Remember, we're multiplying those two things, right? The opposite of multiply is to divide. If I divide this by 5, I have to do it to the other side. That's why I immediately went over and did it on the other side. 15 divided by 5 would give us 3. So 150 divided by 5 would give us 30. So this is a word problem, so you have to answer it with a complete sentence with your units. So how much money, the question is, how much money is 40% of $75? $30 is 40% of $70. So make sure you're going back and rewriting it as a sentence. Okay, example number 4. Example number 4 here. A certain used cars salesperson, I've got my book all the way over here, it's probably not helpful. Okay. A certain used car salesperson receives a commission of 8% of the selling price of a car. If the salesperson sells a car for $3,600 or $3,600, how much is the salesperson's commission? Okay, well, we know this is a percent problem, so we're going to do our setup. There's our setup. Remember, part over whole equals percent over 100. A certain used car salesperson receives a commission of 8%, so we're going to put our percent goes over here, of the selling price of the car. If the salesperson sells a car for $3,600, that means the total cost of the car was $3,600, and he's getting a very tiny portion of it as his commission. So the total cost means it's the whole cost. It's going to go down here, $3,600. Okay, so we have, and then, so what was the commission? So we're gonna put an X up here. Again, we're gonna cross multiply. You could reduce this fraction, but I think it might be easier if we don't. So let's just give it a shot. 100x equals 3,600 times 8. Let's do some side work here. 36 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48. That's gonna be 24 plus that is 28. So 288, but we also have 2 zeros here. So 1, 2. So I'm going to rewrite it here so you can see what I did. Times 8 gives us 100x equals 28,800. Okay. Now we're multiplying these two things, and the opposite of multiply is divide. 100 divide by 100. Cancel out, and what I do to one side I have to do to the other. And let's lob off some zeros here. There's 1 0, there's another 0. So x equals 288 over 1, which is just 288. We go back and we look at it, and it says the question was how much is the salesperson's commission? The salesperson's commission was $288. Okay. Example number 5. This one says, what number is 25% of 88? Now, remember when we were talking word problems, I said do part over whole equals percent over 100. If you flip back over here, this is my other favorite one, guys. This is my favorite. I've done so much math, and this is still my favorite formula. Is over of equals percent over 100. So I'm going to copy that over here. Is over of equals percent over 100. In this case, what we're going to do is what number is, oops, I messed that up, sorry. What number is 25% of 88? Now, before I was doing that whole is and of and all that, but then we are going to have to turn this into a decimal, and it's a pain in the butt. So I don't actually want to translate it from English to math in this. This is going to be a lot easier if we use our setup. So we see this, what number is this of that? That's when you know you do your setup. So we do our setup here, bam, bam. There's our setup. Okay, first things first, identify your percent, because that's the easiest one. We look up here and we're like, oh, 25%. Now we have to identify our is and our of. Well, I see of 88. Of goes on the bottom, so 88 here. And remember the word what means x or a variable. So what number is goes on top, so x is going to go on top here. Okay? Again, we're going to cross multiply. This times this gives me 100x equals 88 times 25. Okay, so we do 100x equals 2200. 2200. We're multiplying here, and the opposite of multiply is divide. What you do to one side, you must also do to the other. So this cancels out, and I'm left with 22 over 1, which is just 22. We go back and look, this isn't a word problem, so we know what number is 25% of 88? 22. 22. All right, guys, so take a look at your practice problems are going to be on page 360. I'm going to pause them so I can write those down. Go ahead and pause the video, do them, and come on back. Okay, I think it'll be easier if I do this. So here are your practice problems. If you need to pause it and write those down, you can. All right, so let's get to it. For A, what number is 4/5 of 71? So what number, that's x, is, means equals 4/5 of, which means multiply, 71. And I'm going to turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. Okay? We multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. The only time we cross multiply is if the equal's in the center. So this means x equals 4 times 71, which gives us 284 divided by 5. Okay, so then for B, we have 3/8 of 3 3/7 is what number? All right, well, and when we're multiplying, we have to turn that into an improper fraction. So we have 3/8 times this is 21 plus 22, 23, 24. So we get 24 over 7 equals x. Let's cross cancel to make life easier. Divide by 8, we get 1. Divide by 8, we get 3. So when we multiply our fractions, multiply straight across the top, we get 9. Straight across the bottom, we get 1 times 7, which is 7, equals x. C. Actually, when you're doing your homework, you really need to be doing like A here, B here, C, D. So I'm going to do C. I should have done B over there. But what number is 6/10 of 145? X equals, so we're going to do 145 times 6/10. We're going to do the normal multiplication. This times this is 30, carry the 3, 24, 25, 26, 7, 7, 2, 6, 7, 8. 8, one digit behind or one decimal behind, no, one digit behind a decimal. It means that we're going to move this over one spot to here. So X equals 87. D. 75 hundredths. Now you can write this two ways. You can write it as a fraction or as a decimal. I'm going to write it as a decimal. 75 hundredths of, means multiply, 14.4 is what number? So we want to multiply 0.75 times 14.4, which will give us 10.8 equals X. All right, so for E, what number is 50% of 150? Actually, this is a percent one, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to do our setup. Is over of equals percent over 100. Is over of equals percent over 100. Looking at this, it says what number is 50%? So 50% of 150, which means 150 is going to go here. Remember at the beginning, what number is? What means X? X goes in our is spot. Okay, I'm going to lob off some zeros here, right? And taking a look at this, we actually don't even need to cross cancel. What we have is X over 150 equals 5 over 10 is really just 1/2. Now, looking at these two ratios, remember ratios are fractions. This is a proportion because we're comparing ratios. What is 1/2 of 150? Let's think, if you have $1.50 and you cut that evenly in half, you cut your dollar in half, you would have 2 quarters. You cut your 50 cents in half and you would have 1 quarter, which gives you 3 quarters or 75 cents. That means X equals 75. If you can't do that in your head, you can absolutely cross multiply. 2X equals 150. And then you would divide both sides by 2. E, and then F is 3% of $39 is how much money? So it's a percent problem. So 3%, we're putting that in our percent spot, of 39 is how much money? Is, we don't know. So we're gonna put that there. Let's cross multiply. 100x equals 39 times 3. Let's do a little side work here. 9, 10, 11, 117. 117. Okay, now we have to divide both sides by 100. Divide both sides by 100. Guys, when we're dividing by 100, we're just moving our decimal 2 spots because there's 2 zeros. The decimal is currently right here. If we move that over 2 spots, we get X equals 1.17. 1.17. So, and oh, it's money, so make sure you have a dollar sign in there, okay? Last one, G. What number is 25% of 64? So it's percent one, so let's do our setup. Off the bat, we see 25%. So what number is, that means what and is going to go up here. 25% of 64. Of 64. Again, we can probably break this down pretty easily. 25 out of 100. If you have 1 quarter, you would have 1 out of 4. So 64 equals 1 out of 4. Another way of looking at this is if we did 64 divided by 4. If we multiply this times 16, we get 64. If I do it on the bottom, I got to do it up here. 16. So 1 times 16 would give us X equals 16. If you can't figure it out that way, that's fine. You can always, always, always cross multiply. That's totally fine as well. All right, guys, good work. Sorry, this lesson was a little bit long, but it's a really important one. So thank you so much.